Friends, so I will continue from my previous video where I was talking about groups, and I talked about various classification of groups, formal groups, informal groups, and then we took some examples of sub classifications like command group, task groups, interest groups, and friendship groups. Then we talked about why people join group, why people have a need of joining a particular group. So people have various reasons. We talked about security, we talked about affiliation, we talked about self-esteem, we talked about uh, uh, goal achievement, power. So these are the various things we discussed. Then we talked about various stages of group formations. So we talked about two models, five-stage model and punctuated equilibrium model. So I'll continue from there. Uh, so today we will talk about various properties of group which leads to an effective group performance. So there are five important properties which any group must have to be effective and to have an effective performance in that particular group. So what are those five different properties? So we'll take one by one. So I'll share all these five properties first with you, and then we'll take one by one each of these properties and see how these different properties affect group performance. So first we'll talk about roles, okay, which are the most important one. Then we will talk about norms. Norms are standards, rules, and regulations developed by the group members. Then we will talk about within that group norms. We'll talk about deviant behavior. Then we will take another property, status. Okay, and then we'll talk about group size and group cohesiveness. So all these various properties we'll take one by one today, and we will try to understand how you can, as a manager, create an effective groups, so which will lead to an effective performance. So first we'll start with roles. What exactly roles are? Roles are the expected behavior pattern attributed to someone occupying a particular given position in a social unit. Okay, like let's take the example of any film actress. Let's take the example of John Abraham, okay, or Salman Khan for that matter. Okay, so Salman Khan or John Abraham, they act in the movie. Okay, at the same time they produce movie, they direct movies. Okay, and they are social activists also. At the same time, they have been supporting a lot of non-profit organization, and they are involved in a lot of charity works. So they are performing different types of roles. Okay, so role is the most important characteristics in a particular group. When people are clear about their roles and responsibility, they gets into those roles and they try to perform their duties as per the role expectations they have. Okay, so so within this role we will talk about role identity. So role identity is about certain attitudes and behavior consistent with the role. Okay, so let's say for example a policeman. Okay, so they have a certain attitude which is required by that particular role they are performing. So they have a certain sense of identity, that they had certain power which they have to exercise to keep law and order into law and order into control. Okay, so that is something the role identity is about. So how much an employee has a role identity, how much he can sync his attitude and his behavior with the role assigned to them. So if the role identity is consistent with the role, then obviously that employee will perform his duty along with his fully internalizing in his attitude as well as in behavior. So he will be fully into his role identity, that he will have a clear idea about what exactly he is or she is expected out of that particular role. Okay, so that's the role identity part within the role. Then we talked about role perception. What is role perception? Role perception is an individual's view of how he or she is supposed to act in a given situation received by external stimuli. So how he perceives his role, basically, how he's supposed to act. If suppose, let's say, the example of the policeman. If he has a positive role perception about the work he has been doing, so obviously he will act in a with the utmost responsibility, with the positive perception of his role. Okay, if an employee who has a negative perception about his role in the organization, where he doesn't perceive his he has a role identity, or he has a positive perception about his role, so obviously he will not take a full charge of the responsibility or the roles assigned to him. Then within this we will talk about role expectations. So that's another subcategory in the roles, like what kind of expectations people have from you in that particular role. So it's also related with the psychological contract, which is unwritten rules you have with your organization, that your organization has given you certain role and they expect something out of it, that you will perform all your duties and responsibilities which have been, sometimes it has been said, sometimes it's written, what are your formal roles and responsibility in a particular job, but some things which are not written also. So it's a kind of a psychological contract between you and your organization, that you will do certain you will perform certain roles out of your responsibility towards the organization, because you also feel that your organization is doing so much for you, and it's your duty to give it back to your organization. So that is called a role expectation. So management has certain expectation from the employees, and employees had a certain mutual expectations from the employer or from the management. So both try to fulfill each other's roles expectations. Okay, so that is something very important for an effective group performance, that expectation need to be, whether it is said or unsaid, need to be clear to the employee in an organization. Then comes the role conflict. So what is role conflict? It is a situation in which individual confronted with a divergent role expectations. Like, for example, in a college, a teacher may be at a conflict that he has certain administrative responsibility, and at the same time he is supposed to teach effectively. Okay, so sometimes they may not be able to give their 100% to either of the roles. Okay, because they are not clear which one is their predominating duty, which they are supposed to perform, whether focus on teaching or focus on administrative responsibility, which takes quite a lot of time of that faculty's time. So there are certain role conflicts, which one is most important one. So if it is not clear, if there is a certain conflict among the employees with regard to the role given to them, then it leads to a negative group performance or negative outcome for that particular employee in the group. So these are the various sub classification of role which we talked about, that employees need to have a clear role identity, they need to have a clear role perception, they need to have a positive role perception, they need to have a clear role expectations, what is expected out of them, they need to have a clarity about that, and also they should not have any kind of a role conflict between two or more activities they are involved into, or the divergent activities they are involved, or the divergent expectations they have been handling in the organization. If that is not clear, it will in fact impact the performance of that particular employee in the group. Now I will share one experiment which was done by Zimbardo. It's been famous with the names of Zimbardo's prison experiment. Okay, where a fake prison was created using the student volunteers, where randomly they were assigned the groups of guard and the prisoners roles. Within the 6 days of this particular experiment which was started, they have to halt it due to the numerous concerns which was happening during this experiment. So what were those concerns? Guards had they started dehumanizing the prisoners, okay, and there was no reluctance, perceived from the prisoners who were performing the role of prisoners. So prisoners were actually subservient to their roles, fell into the roles as they understood them. They thought like they were the real prisoners, and there was no real resistance felt from them. Okay, so basically guards were dehumanizing them. So this particular experiment was stopped, after 6 days. So what is the learning out of this experiment? Basically, this experiment highlights the how employees take their roles seriously. Whatever roles have been assigned to them, they get into their roles and they try to meet the expectation which are attached to these roles. So that is the importance of the roles. Which now I will move on to the another group property, which is norms. What are norms? Norms are the acceptable standards of behavior within a group that are shared by the group members is being called norms. It also sometimes norms are written, sometimes unwritten statements. It's kind of an understanding, like a certain standard of performance. What certain standard of performance which is acceptable in the group. So that is something classifies norms. Okay. So there are various classes of norms are there with regard to effective group performance. So I'll list each one of them one by one. So first is performance norms. Performance norms are the norms where at the level of acceptable work in a particular group, like the quality of the group, the standards, the way a particular task has been done. So that has been named as a performance norms. Like for example, any organization can have certain norms that 99.9% error-free work. Okay, so that is called a performance norms, where certain level of standards is accepted from all the employees. If work is not as per those standards, so that will be considered in the category of a deviant behavior, which I will discuss in detail later on. So then comes the appearance norms. What are the appearance norms? What to wear? Okay, like most organizations, they have their formal attire. Some organizations they have a casual attires. Okay, so these are the norms with regard to uniformity you will maintain with regard to what you wear into when you come to your workplace. Okay, so that's called appearance norms. Okay, whether you should keep the beards, or you should be clean shaven, or you should wear formal full shirts, or formal trousers, or you come in a jeans or casual way. So these norms actually vary from organization to organization. Some organization which are into creative works, or where there is a flexibility in office timings, so their appearance norms may be more towards the casual attires, whereas most organizations they have a formal attire. Especially if you go into a manufacturing plant, you will see all the laborers dressed in a particular uniform. Okay, or if you go to a hospital or any other healthcare centers, so they are supposed to wear whatever category of employees they are into, they are supposed to wear certain clothes with to highlight their identity in the organization. So this is the appearance norms. Then comes social arrangement, like friendship and the like in some organizations the culture is very formal. Okay, friendships and other things are not promoted or not appreciated. Okay, where you have to work professionally, you have some personal relationships are not encouraged. Okay, or sometimes it has been considered that it's not professional if you have any kind of a relationship at a workplace. So some social arrangement norms are followed by various organizations. Different organizations have different norms. Some organizations encourage couples to work in the same organization. Some organization they don't appreciate couple working in the similar organization, same organization. So it work. So this social arrangements norms varies from organization to organization. Then comes the allocation of resources norms, distribution and assignment of jobs and materials. So that's another types of norms are followed, how the resources has been distributed. Okay, so any organization where which is hierarchy based, so all the goods resources, all the important resources are controlled by the people who are high in hierarchy. Okay, or very limited resources are given to the people those who are low in hierarchy. So kind of a class difference is created in those organizations. So that is something, the norms which are followed by the various organizations, how they allocate the resource and how they kind of distribute work. Okay, who will get what kind of a work, who will get what kind of a responsibility. So this is something, is a part of the norms of a particular group. Now so these are about the norms. Norms are very important for performance. Okay, so it was very much highlighted. I will talk about Hawthorne studies which highlighted the importance of group norms. Okay, in Hawthorne studies, a series of experiments were undertaken by Alton Mayo at a Western Electric company. Okay, Hawthorne works in Chicago between 1924 and 1932. So what were the main highlights of this research was, workers' behaviors and sentiments were closely related. Okay, so which was different from, where, previously it has been, that's the mass view that, people just come to workplace for money. Okay, but this research highlighted the emotion part, the workers' behavior and their attachment part. Okay, that people are closely related. They develop certain kind of a bonding with each other, and they have certain kind of a norms which binds them together. Okay. So basically, so other finding was the group influences were significant in affecting individual behavior. So what is group influences? Basically, these were the group norms which kind of significantly affect individuals' behavior, how a particular individual will behave in a particular group. Okay, then all this research also highlighted group standards norms were highly effective in establishing individual workers' output. Okay, wherever these norms were very strong and were followed by the employees very strictly, so the performance output was seen very high. Okay, so another important findings of this particular research was money was less of a factor in determining workers' output than work group standards. Okay, sentiments and security. So money was not at all an important factor. In fact, group standards and the sentiments among the group members and the security on the jobs were the important factor which highlights the importance of the group norms. Okay, so there we see, so previously we talked about roles. Norms are equally important, where some standards for works are developed, and if those standards are followed, it can reap a lot of good outcomes in terms of group performance. Now I will highlight certain points with regard to norms and behavior. Okay, so in this we have certain things which we need to discuss one by one. First is reference group. Okay, Reference group is a important group to which individual belongs to. Okay, like I as a you know part of this organization, United World School of Business. So this is my reference group. Okay, the group I belong to. Okay, and or maybe if I'm not working here, I'm thinking of joining United World. Okay, from outside, from different organization, then I'm hoping to belong to this particular group because I like the norms which have been followed by this particular group, okay, and the group which I want to be the part of. Okay, so that is called a reference group. Okay, so every individual who wants to be a part of a particular group whose norms are in sync with individuals liking, and they want to conform to those norms, rules and regulations, so that is called a reference group. Okay, so people, they intentionally choose to be a part of a particular group because it is in sync with the norms and the standards, the ideology they believe in, and the norms kind of an attraction point for those group members who wants to be the part of it. Okay. Then comes conformity, which is another important part which is related to norms and behavior. Gaining acceptance by adjusting one's behavior to align with the norms of the group is called conformity. You try to conform to the norms of the group. Like for example, you will be punctual, you will be, if suppose it is expected out of you that if a particular time has been set for a meeting and you will reach on time, you will not come late. So that's the norms you have to follow. You will wear a formal attire for the meetings, and you will come for this meeting in a formal attire. So that's the norms you will try to conform to, because you don't want to be seen differently, you don't want to be seen different from the group. So you will try to conform to the group's expectation, what are the norms which are expected out of you. Then comes another important study which was done within this, how norms impact the behavior. So I will highlight this study here. The study was named as ASH studies. Okay, so which demonstrates the power of conformance people have, when they join a particular group, and but it is culture based and declining in its importance, but still it is one of the very popular experiment which was conducted while studying norms and the behavior, the impact of norms and the behavior. So what was this studies? Actually, in this particular study, 10 there were control group and there was an experiment group members. So there were actually 10 people in this particular experiment. 9 were part of the control group and 1 was the experiment group. Okay. 1 member was of the experiment group. So what actually these 9 members, they were shown 3 lines A, B, C, and the 4th line D was shown, and first 9 members were asked, actually they were deliberately asked to choose the wrong line to match it with the line which is not to match with the line which exactly which is an exact match, line D, which is an exact match to line A. So everybody stated the wrong choice. So impact was so that first 9 people, they deliberately they selected the wrong answers to line D. So kind of created a confirmation pressure on the 10th guy who was the part of the experiment group. Under the pressure of first 9 people, he also though he was sure that line B is equivalent to line D, but he also under the pressure of other 9 group members who deliberately selected line A equal to line D, and he also said that 10th person also said that line A is equal to line D, which was the wrong answer. When researcher asked that particular person why he did so, if he is given a chance, which one he will choose again. So he said, no, line B is equivalent to D. Then researcher asked, okay, why you selected A in first place? So he said, I felt pressurized. 9 people can't be wrong. Okay. So under the group's pressure, and he didn't want it to be seen differently, so he kind of confirmed it with what other 9 people has said. So that's the power of norms. Okay, that's the power of conformance. Okay, people want to conform to the group they want to be the part of. So conformity is something which people, to gain acceptance in a particular group, to be a part of a particular group, they want to stay in a particular group, they kind of conform to the group's norms, what has been followed by the group members. So this is another important property which impacts individuals' behavior in the group. Now, what is deviant? Define the norms, or what is the deviant behavior at a workplace? So, which is related to norms only. Okay, deviant behavior is also called as antisocial behavior or workplace incivility. What exactly it is? When an individual, so the word deviant itself is saying that you're deviating from what is expected out of you. Okay, so deviation from the expected behavior, which is out of organizational norms, and in doing so, you threatens the well-being of the organization or of the groups. Okay, so that is something it's a voluntary behavior basically, that violates the significant organizational norms. So that is something, deviant behavior. It's when you defy the norms of an organization. There could be a various reason to it. Okay, and there can be a different reason for defying the norms. Like for it could be if you want to increase the work speed or production, you are not in sync with the other members, you are completing it before because you want to be in the good books of the top management, so you defy the norms, okay, by working faster than the other people, then damaging the property of the organization or stealing stationery or other things from the organizations. That's an example of deviant behavior. Indulging into a favoritism or in gossips, in political behavior, that's also an example of deviant behavior. And also showing personal aggression and misusing your authority. So the example could be the sexual harassment, can be another example, okay, which is a part of the deviant behavior. So you defy the norms of your organization or your group, and you indulge into a deviant behavior. So basically, group norms itself can influence the presence of deviant behavior. Okay, simply belonging to a group increases the likelihood of deviance. Okay, because being in a group, it allows an individual to hide. Okay, creates a false sense of confidence. Then they will not get caught if they will indulge into such deviant behavior. So basically, sometimes group influences are there on the deviant behavior, like your identity get concealed when you indulge into a deviant behavior. Okay, so far I have discussed 2 properties of the groups out of 5, which is roles and norms. In my next video I will be talking about status, size, and the effect of group cohesiveness on group performance. Until then, I'll say bye to you. I'll meet you again in my next video, and I will try to complete the other remaining 3 properties of the groups. And we will, if you have any doubts, you can write to me. You can call me, or you can, like I said, all the various electronic mediums are available for you to contact me. So I will be more than happy to answer your queries with regard to what we have discussed today. So see you again in the next video.